Okay, let's see. Woo! Up and running. For the most part. Okay. So, let me see if I can move this out of the way. Oh my god, so many things are happening. I guess we still have to wait a second. In the meantime, I'll read. Sorry, guys. Okay, so for the first one, they wanted you to start with the 15. So we're going to connect the two 15s right off the bat. That's probably the easiest one. And then we want to make sure we go between the smaller numbers and the bigger numbers. So I'm going to draw my line between the 14, 17, 14, 20, and then end between the 14, 16. No, go away. Go away. Yes, Brody. This is the fourth period of the day, but this is the second time I'm teaching this lesson. So the 15 is between the 14, 16, and then it goes between the 13, 16, and then 11, 17. So this is kind of what yours should look like.
Well, we don't have the.
Okay, what's up?
You meant we have lab.
No lab. We had lab yesterday. For the 20, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 20s. So you're going to connect these 2 points, go between the 18, 21, connect to this line and off the page. So that's your 20. And so that's what your first one should look like. Okay, just make sure when you draw these lines that your big numbers stay on the right-hand side and your smaller numbers are on the left. And when you draw on your 15 and 20 line, once it's drawn, you should be able to look to the left-hand side of the page and see everything to the left is less than 15, and everything to the right of your line is greater than 15. And the same idea for the 20 line, okay? And so for the next page, and then we'll get right into the notes. You had to do the, I believe, 18, 20, and 22. Make this a little bit bigger, that's better. Okay, so here's your 18s, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so you're just gonna make sure your line goes through all of them and off the page. 20 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is hiding over here in the corner. I'm gonna start from up here so I don't forget about that one. And your 20s are pretty much dividing your teens from your 20 numbers. Okay, so make sure everything on the left side of your 20 line is less than 20, and on the right side is greater. Okay, 22 is here. And we're gonna kind of go off the page. So that's what yours should look like. Any questions on isolines? Okay, take out your notes, and you need a pencil today. And hopefully this will go exactly as it should. so in your notes so far, we've been able to draw isolines and we've also been able to calculate gradient. Oh, I just can't. Okay, here we go. So right now we've finished drawing our isolines, calculating to talk about how to read a contour map, okay? So the rules of reading contour maps is what we're going to go over today. I'm going to give you examples, and maybe if we have time at the end of the period, we'll do a little bit of practicing. If not, we can save practice for next week. But these rules are really important. We should remember them. So these are something I would probably study if I were you. Okay, these rules help you to read the map. And it probably won't make much sense if you're not at least somewhat familiar with these rules. Okay, so the first rule says where contour lines touch the ocean, the value is always 0. And if you remember from page 14 of our notes, what do we call a line or an elevation that has an altitude of 0? 2 words that we use to describe it. Lily? Sea level. So this is also known as sea level. So that's our first rule. Our second rule says a depression contour is used to show a decrease in elevation, also known as a pit or a hole. Okay, something to that effect. And so if you're feeling depressed, are you feeling up or are you feeling down? Down. So that's what depression contour means. It means you're feeling down. Okay? And so on a map, you can see that as a hole. So looking over here on the right, you have an example of a depression contour. So your depression contours are 2 circles. And you know that they're a depression because they have these little marks on the outside. So that's what you look for. That's what tells you that this is a depression. Same thing here too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So these tiny little marks you see here tell you that this is a hole. So if I was to put my toes on the very edge of that 60 line, if I took one more step, I would be falling into that hole. Okay? So that's what this mark is right here. The first depression contour is always the same as the one around it. And so our first depression contour for our hole is 60. And the value of the one around it is also 60. So these are the same. And so that's what I'm referring to in that rule. So 60 and 60. What the function of this line is to tell you where the perimeter of the hole is. So if you followed this map, you would know exactly where to find it and exactly how deep the hole is. And so looking at this map, can someone tell me what's my contour interval? What am I counting by for these lines? So I see 50, 60, 70, 80, and I have 50, 60. So what am I counting by if I look at those lines? Cole? Tens. Yeah, so my contour interval is tens. Now once I get inside that, the hole, stepping into it, and my line's going up or down. So I'm on the 60, am I stepping down to a lower contour interval, or am I stepping up? What do you think, Michael? Down, yeah, so this is 50, this is less than this is. So that's how you know this is a depression, this is a hole. So the following lines count down using the contour interval. Okay, so that's probably a pretty shallow pit. But you could have a pit that is a circle within a circle within a circle within a circle within a circle. And it just keeps going down and down and down. You wouldn't want to fall into that one. The more circles there are, the deeper it is. So this one only is 2, so it's probably not so deep, okay? And we're gonna come back to this picture in just 1 second. So let's flip to the next page. So lowest elevation. The lowest elevation on the map is 1 more than the next lowest contour line. So 1 more than the next lowest contour line. That's on the next page of your notes, lowest elevation, I think. Yeah, it is. And so we're gonna flip back to the previous page so we can make this make sense. So 1 more than the next lowest contour line. If I say 1 more than, what am I doing? 1 more than is telling you to do what kind of subtraction, addition, division, multiplication. If I say 1 more than I should be doing what, Giancarlo? Addition. So 1 more than means adding 1. And the next lowest contour line will be if we continue to count down. So let's do a practice on this one. So going back to the previous example on the page at the bottom, okay, I'm going to put a little X in the center. And I'm going to ask you what, and you can write this if you want, what is the lowest possible elevation at X? Okay, in the center there. Now we're going to use the rule we just said. 1 more than the next lowest contour line. So before we can answer that, can someone tell me if I wanted to make this hole deeper, I got out a shovel and I kept digging, what would be the next value of a line inside the hole? Okay, if I drew another hole in the center inside the 50, what would be the value of that line? Camden? 40, exactly. So the next lowest contour line value would be 40, because we're counting by tens. And what does the rule say? 1 more than the next lowest. So what do I have to do to that 40 to get the answer to this question? Yeah. Add 1. So this is the answer to the question. And we'll do an example here. So the highest elevation on the map is 1 less than the next highest contour line. So let's look at what we have here. Is this a pit or a hole? No. How do you know it's not a pit or a hole? What are these circles missing that a pit or a hole? Exactly. The numbers are going up as you go in, so that tells you it's a hill. And then also I don't see those little lines along the inside. So I know this is a hill, not a pit. If these numbers went down, starting at 400, 300, 200, 100, and I had all these little lines along the outside, for sure this would be a hole. But this tells me the numbers are going up. This is some kind of hill. Okay? So, if I want to figure out what is the highest possible elevation, at X, I need to use this idea. So the rule is this: 1 less, so -1, than the next highest contour line. So step 1, what would be the next highest line? If I drew one inside the 400, what would the value of the line be? Think. If you don't want to raise your hand for this answer, at least think of it on your own. If you sit and you zone out, this will be very difficult for you because a lot of this is common sense if you think about it. What's the next biggest line that would be there if we're counting by what those lines are counting by? 500, exactly. So 500 would be the next highest line. Now, do I have a 500 in there? No. So I need to figure out what this could possibly be if it's not 500 or greater. So in order to do this, we use our rule. One less than the next highest contour line. We just said the next highest contour line would be 500. So if it's one less, then the maximum that that x could possibly be would be 499. Does that make sense? Okay? It can't be 500 or anything bigger than that. So the highest possible elevation at x is 499 based on this example. That one's a little bit easier than the pit. It's weird to think about a smaller elevation rather than a larger one. Okay, so steep versus gentle slopes. Next to this, I'm just going to put in the parentheses and write gradient. We already kind of talked about this yesterday, and we're going to talk about it in a different way today. So this is a picture of a hill or a mountain. The steep areas of the mountain are where the contour lines are close together. The gentle areas are where the contour lines are far apart. And so when you're finished copying that, think about what part of our mountain up here would be the steepest part, based on that idea. And I drew in some compass directions on here that can help you. So take a look. Who thinks they can tell me, based on this, where's the steepest part of this mountain? North, south, east, west, or maybe northeast, southeast, southwest, or northwest. What part of this mountain would be the hardest to climb up? The lines would be telling you it's the steepest. What do you think, David?
Northwest.
Northwest. I completely agree. This area is the steepest because the lines are packed in close together. Okay, so I also said this refers to gradient. Another word for gradient is change. So what I can see in an area that's very steep is that the elevation is changing over such a tiny area. You go from 100 all the way up to 400 in just this tiny spot, okay? So who can tell me where on this map would be the most gentle? So if you were hiking up this mountain, it would be the easiest place for you to kind of climb up. Yes, Samantha? Southeast, yeah. This is where the gentle area is. Gentle slope. Because the lines are very spread out here. They're not packed in close together. And so if you look, going from 100 to 400 takes this distance. So that's a much bigger distance versus this. It's like half. So this is much more work over a smaller distance versus this one. So we'd say this is a gentle slope, this would be a steep slope. Okay? Okay, last little bit for today. Streams and rivers. So we can use maps with streams and rivers in order to tell the direction the stream is flowing. Okay? The first way to tell, because there are two, the first way to tell the direction the stream is flowing is remembering that they always flow downhill, in the direction that the contour lines are getting smaller. This is important. So the stream is gonna flow in the direction the contour lines are going down. So same idea, but look over to the side. Look at this picture. This line, which I'll trace over in blue, the value is 100. This line, the value is 50. And the stream is kind of crossing over these lines. So raise your hand if you think the stream is flowing from X to Y. Okay? I'll ask you to raise your hands in a second. Raise your hand then if you think Y to X. Okay? So think about that. Which direction is the stream flowing? If it always flows in the direction the lines are getting smaller. Okay, so have an answer in your head. Okay? So raise your hand if you think the stream is flowing from X to Y. Okay? Raise your hand if you think the stream is flowing from Y to X. Nice. The stream is flowing from X toward Y. So how did you know that? What was the information on the map that told you it's starting up by the X and going down toward the Y? What about the numbers told you that, Michael? Yeah, it's decreasing. We started 100 by X and then we're going down by 10. So this would be 90, 80, 70, 60, 50. Okay, so we're going toward the contour lines getting smaller. There is a second way though. Contour lines always point, and I'll show you what the pointing is. As they pass over the stream, they kind of make this little V shape, and they always point to what's called the source of the stream. So maybe a high alpine lake, which means a lake that's in the mountains, or maybe there's a bigger river that's up there. So they always point to where the stream is coming from. And the source is always at a higher elevation. Remember, water is not going to go against gravity. There is one example of a river doing this, but only one. Of all the rivers in the world, there's only one, and there's other factors. So in other words, the contour lines point opposite of where the stream is going. So the contour lines in this case are pointing to the north, but the stream itself is heading toward the south. Okay. This is definitely a question on your text. Okay, one last little thing for today, and then I'll give you your homework and your study guide. So a benchmark is sometimes on topographic maps like we see here, but more often than not, I feel like they tell you the contour interval rather than give you a benchmark. But the benchmark states the exact elevation of a specific location. There's really nothing else to know about it, but sometimes on a map they'll tell you the benchmark is this. And they use BM. Okay? And so these are your rules. I don't expect you to memorize these in this one day since we've copied them down, but in order to answer questions on maps, you have to keep these in mind. Okay? So these are definitely something you would make a flashcard for or study. The very little part of this unit requires that you have stuff memorized. It's more skill-based, but this is definitely something that I would try to remember. So I'm going to give you your homework for tonight if you want to get started on that, and I'm also going to give you a study guide. Okay, the homework goes on Google Classroom, but you have a 4-day weekend, so you have until Tuesday at 8:20 to put the homework on Google. If you're missing any labs on Google, please make sure to use this 4 days to do them. And I would start filling out the study guide.
I highly doubt it's actually work.
Did you guys get those 3D glasses?
When you start, stop saying that word. Say sorry, you're gonna get your missing white daddy.
I already have one.
And do you have one already?
No, I'm just trying.
There you go.